Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? And we are Philo Sapience back live with an English stream. We are Philo Sapience, where religion meets reason. With me is Madan and KP Khali. How are you two doing?
All good.
Am I
All
all
good.
good?
How
All
are you
good.
doing?
All right. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. After a long time, I think all three of us together have found some,
Yeah,
time to stream.
time stream.
And so yeah, this is gonna be a big bang, right? Okay, let's see what it is. So anything to add, Madin or Kali, or shall we
No,
just
let's start.
straight away?
Let's start. Yeah.
Yeah, let's straight away jump into the
Yeah, let's jump
review.
in.
All right, so this is a conversation, as the audience can see. It's just an agnostic tries to deny objective morality. Let's hear.
Say that it depends on how you're viewing them.
Do you mean from the Islamic paradigm, is morality objective? Is that your question?
Well, I'm asking you, do you believe that morals are objective?
Yeah, but in what sense? Are you asking, are morals objective from the point of view of creation or from the point of view of God?
From your own point of view.
From our point of view, yes,
I'm asking you guys each the questions, right? Like that.
Yeah, there is objective morality. Not every, I wouldn't say that morals are objective per se. There is a subjective element to morals as well. But yes, there is objective morality, right? So does that help? Because I don't think
I
they're
think you're basically saying
completely
yes, right?
objective. No, I'm not saying yes. I'm saying there is some form of an objective morality, but are morals objective? Not necessarily. They could be very subjective as well.
Okay, so you don't know, or
No.
what is it?
Let me break it down for you in another way. All
Let's be
morals
pause.
are not
Let's pause
objective,
here.
but there are objective morals.
Yeah, I think, what Faisal just said, I mean, in fact, I mean, at the last, he said, I don't know, it seemed to me that he made a contradictory statement. I mean, it didn't make sense to me that he's saying morals are not morality, I don't know, morals are not necessarily objective,
Yeah, I
but
think
I don't know, what
he's talking about two things, right? I think I'm
yeah,
getting your point. Sorry, shall I interject if you want to?
yeah, sure.
So he's talking about morals, right? And uh, that's the ethics that we follow. Basically, the not the rooting of the morals, basically, right? So he's saying morality is objective. He's talking about the ontology of it, right? And so that's what he sees. But epistemically, it may be subjective. That's, I think, he's getting at.
Epistemically, it might be subjective.
Right. Maybe we
So you're saying
understand
our
it.
interpretation of it might be
Yeah,
subjective.
yeah. That's
Okay.
what I think he's talking about.
Okay. So there exists an ideal form, like some sort of an essentialist point of view, right? There are some moral rules which are true, objectively true, but our
Right.
interpretation would be subjective.
Yeah. Or interpretation or our actions on them, right? So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. But I think what SMK just said, I don't think that is what Faisal was saying, because SMK just interjected and said that there are there are rules which are objectively true,
Mhm.
moral rules which are objectively true, and then there are moral rules which are subjective. There are some rules which are subjective and some rules which are objective. I think this is what SMK was saying, but I don't think Faisal was saying that.
Yeah. You're right. I think I don't know why do we even give credence to this guy, SMK.
Yeah, and I think Faisal will also correct him that
Yeah. Later
he
on.
will
Yeah.
not say it that I'm correcting you, but he'll say that what
Yeah.
I mean is this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, Madin, anything to add? Or
No, I don't think they've said anything coherent so far. So
yeah.
Actually, let me reword it, SMK. There is objective morality, but in the practical application of moral law, it is very subjective.
Okay. Second question is there objective moral duties?
Are there objective moral duties? Yeah, you can argue that there are objective moral duties.
Okay. Third question is, would it be immoral to not do an objective moral duty if you can?
Would it be immoral?
Yeah.
Obviously, if you do not perform your moral duty, it can be an immoral act, but depends on the level by which you're deviating from the duty.
Okay.
Can you pause it?
Number 4, does
I think Faisal is giving, I don't know, very safe answers, because the way he's responding to them, it's a bit, it's very, I don't know, defensive, because to the previous answer he said, if you can argue that moral duties exist, which is different from saying that yes, moral duties exist. And then when to this question, the last one, which was, it is immoral, is it immoral to not fulfill a moral duty? He said yes. I mean, then it can be immoral to not fulfill your moral duty. So again, he's being very defensive for some reason. I guess he's sensing some sort of a trap.
Yeah, I think confusion is their friend in times of what do you call distress.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move forward.
does God do the objective moral duties?
No. When did I say that God is subjected to any morals?
Oh, you didn't. I just thought that there's some things that were objective. There's some objective
Yeah.
moral duties, isn't
But
there?
I told you from which observation point are you asking me that from?
Well,
Right.
I'm
So
asking you.
here's how I see it. Here's how I see it, Mac. From my perspective, God is not subjected to morality.
Okay. Well,
Okay. Now,
I
can
mean,
you
it's not
again pause it?
objective morality.
So
Yeah,
let me
I think
repeat what
I mean
Faisal just said.
this
From my
is a big word.
perspective, God is not subjected to any moral duties. What does that
Right.
mean?
I think he has to first ascertain whether there is a viewpoint for an objective morality. That is one.
Exactly.
And if he, as soon as he builds a viewpoint, that is
Yeah.
subjective morality. What are you talking about, even? Yeah, I mean, what are you even talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you have a subjective objective morality?
Yeah. You're saying
Right.
from our perspective, God is not subjected to morality.
Yes.
Objective
What does
morality.
that even mean, right?
Yeah.
I think from our perspective, no. Your perspective is different. You think that
Yeah.
is not objective, but from our perspective, it is objective, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know. I mean, what he's actually trying to say is that, I don't know. Maybe he's trying to say that God has no moral duties towards us. He might be saying that, but and ultimately, I think they will argue clearly that God has
no.
no moral duties.
I
God
think
is not
Harry,
obliged to
what's
do
happened
anything.
here? What's happened here is now he keeps leaving the playing field, goes does a foul and comes back in the field. That's what happens in a football match, right? So what he does is when he's playing by the rules of football, the soccer game, right? But when he requires, he moves out towards Islam. So his objective ruling is coming from Islam. That's the outside of the field. That's foul, but he has to go there because he just can't stay inside this soccer playing field, and get to that objective moral from our perspective, and that's going outside the playing field and coming back in. That's how I see it, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, Madin, do you agree with that analogy, or you don't? I think that's what he's doing, I guess, right?
I've not heard anything coherent from these guys as of yet. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think we are trying to make sense of incoherence, probably. I think we should write that. What is the name of that book, Cali?
The incoherence of the
Incoherence of
dots
the
connected to Islam.
philosopher, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's called
yeah,
the
and then
incoherence of the philosopher.
incoherence of these.
The incoherence.
Philosopher.
Yeah,
It's Imam Ghazali's book, right?
yeah, Tahafut al Falasifa, right?
Ah,
That's the book.
Tahawatul Philosopher. Yeah.
Right. All right, moving on.
Then I don't know how you'd be able to say that this is an objective moral thing.
It is objective for us. For all of creation, those rules are objective. We're not the ones in charge. God is the one in charge. He set the standard for us. From our perspective, regardless of which creation it is, those are objective moral standards. But for him, no, he is not subjected to moral standards. He's the one who gives moral guidelines, moral standards. He sets them for his creation. He's not subjected to them.
Okay. Is there other things that are objective that just don't apply to some like that? Making them sound.
God is the objective. There's nothing that, see, when it comes to God, right, we don't apply standards to God. There's nothing objective that you can say, oh, this is objective, so God must be subjected to this particular standard. No. From our perspective, it is objective because God has declared that this is how things are going to be. And that for us is objective.
You see,
Yeah, but my question
I
was,
mean, can you pause it? This definition of objective, this definition, I would say, kind of, if you consider the objection that Muslims and theists raise, which is atheists don't have objective morality. I think now it give in light of the state what Faisal just said, that would be a tautological statement, because you are defining the word objective, by including the concept of God within it. You are actually sort of forcing in the concept of God within the word objective, and then you're saying atheists don't have objective morality because you have included the word or the concept of God within the word objective. So I mean, why should we accept that definition of objectivity? Who defines objectivity that way? Is that how objectivity is defined? You said that this is how we define objectivity. I mean, are you going to change the definition of the word to just then claim different things? I mean, it's a very I don't know, wordplay when you start redefining things in your way. And if you recall my discussion with Faisal, he was very annoyed with me, even although I was using a definition of contingency which was quite standard, yet he blamed me for using a very non-standard definition of contingent being. So now he's defining objectivity in a manner which is not the standard definition. So I think he's doing something which he thought I did, and he got very annoyed with it.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think I shouldn't use those. Maybe there is an idiom that I want to use, but I won't use certain words over there. So he's slowly getting. If you, I mean, this is for audience. You want to watch how he's slowly getting his beep in a twist, right? I hope you got the word that's for the beep, and how is very important. So I'm pointing out what he has just said, that God, because we believe because God commands it, right? And that's the objective morality.
Yes.
And now, if this phrase, he hasn't probably realized how big problem he's going to create for himself on this, right? But we'll listen to it. I think probably this guy who's the caller, he probably didn't even realize that. So, anyway, let's move on and see where it finds himself. I think probably maybe I don't know. We're gonna see the implications of this thought that he has said, but audience probably will realize it slowly.
can you name something
Basically, he
else
has
that's
just
like,
basically he has just said that divine. He believes in divine command theory, right? Which is generally the view that God
Yeah, but
decides
then
what's
God
morally good.
decides. Yeah, and then but then there is no anchor as to why God has to be good. There is nothing
Yeah,
to just, and he said that because God commands it, and
yeah,
there's no standard that applies to God. Whatever he wills, he does.
yeah.
yeah, but my question was, can you name something else that's like objective in this way? Like math is objective, right? 2 + 2 = 4. But I think that also applies to God. I think 2
No,
+ 2 = 4 for God. No, it doesn't.
It applies because God has made it that way. He's not subjected to it. He could have made it a reality which might have been different, and we would have understood it differently then, and we wouldn't even
Just
know
pause it.
how else it could be. All right.
Just pause it. Now, here what he's saying is that God can make impossible possible, right? He believes that God can make what we consider logical impossibility is possible. He just said that, I think this is what he said, right? If I understood him correctly, this Mac guy basically said that 2 plus 2 is objectively true. But Faisal said, no, it is true because God made it so. He could have created a reality where this could be not true. So he's saying there could be a reality where 2 plus 2 could be 5 or 6 or 7. So this means what he's saying too is that God is not subjected to the laws of logic,
Laws of logic,
which
and
which
which
means
means that age old dilemma of could God make a rock so heavy
exactly.
that he couldn't lift? I
It
think
could be
that
true.
he would be able to do. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
he
it
would.
could be true.
I mean it would be true basically, right? That proposition would be true.
Yeah. All logic goes out of the window when you're discussing the concept of God, then, and there is no point of using logical arguments to prove God, or
Right.
even anything for that matter, because it could all be just our understanding, and maybe it's not, that's not true.
That's not reality,
So
right? That's not
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Basically, throw
So yeah,
every reality out of, I mean,
yeah. God
every
could
true proposition out of the window. Or
God could make contradictions true even,
yeah, yeah,
right? It could be contradictory things could be true. God could allow that. So yeah, if this is what Faisal believes in, then okay, then everything goes out of the window. He
exactly,
cannot appeal to logic to make arguments at all. Then
exactly, right. Neither for proving a god, neither for disproving a god.
yeah,
All right, let's move on.
at this
So
point,
from our perspective,
SMK should have asked him, don't you believe in laws of logic? What are the three laws of logic? He should have asked
what,
Faisal.
what is what is the
What are the three
definition
laws
of
of logic?
logic? What is
Yeah,
the
what
what
are
are
the
the
three
three
laws of logic?
logics?
Yeah, yeah,
It is
define logic.
God is the lawgiver. He's not subjected to those laws unless he actually imposes a law upon himself, which he does so in the Islamic theology. We do understand that he's basically said that his mercy exceeds his wrath, right? So he's subjective himself to that particular law, right? So
Okay.
there's
Now,
another place where he's known to have,
no, let him complete. Sorry, I thought he's completed his thought. Let him complete his thought.
where the Prophet peace be upon him taught us that he's made injustice haram upon himself, that he would not do injustice to any existence. He's capable of doing injustice, but he made it so that he wouldn't do it, right? So that is only what he can do to himself. He's the necessary existence. The moment you actually take this idea of that he's subjected to something, he's no longer the necessary existence. And this is what we're trying to point out, that
This argument is highly flawed. I think. I mean, I, I'm not quite sure Faisal even understands each step he takes. He takes
Yeah,
so much of a burden on himself in terms of justifying all the implications of what he's saying. I mean,
exactly.
this very statement that he said has big implication, basically, right? So I'm not quite sure what's happening to yeah.
Exactly. I mean, now just think about it. God is not subjected to any moral law. Now, he said that he's not subjected to any rule unless he applies or imposes any rule on himself. Now, the question is, why
How long will
can't God
how
just
long
lie?
will that ruling be there? First thing, I mean,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
can change
yeah.
it. I
He
mean,
could change it. Yeah,
he could change it very easily, right? Why
yeah,
would he take a ruling on himself because he
yeah,
himself has imposed it? And
yeah.
if he is a free willed being, then he has a right and he will change it basically.
Now,
In an eternity, it will be changing, of course.
now let me ask this question. He's saying that God is not subjected to any rule unless he accept the rules that he imposes on himself. Now, this is also a rule
This
that
is also a
God
rule.
will follow the rule that he imposes on himself.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
this rule necessary for God to
yeah.
follow?
Right. And where does this rule hinge
Whether this
upon?
is who
Is it
imposed this
is
rule
it
on God?
yeah?
If you're
Is
saying
it is
God
this
Himself decided to
this is an
uh,
infinite regress?
exactly, exactly. If saying God Himself decided to say that decided that any rule that He imposed on Himself, that rule is something that He must follow. Okay,
Yeah. Then who builds?
okay,
If he
then
builds that rule, then It's an infinite
He can
regress,
break
or
it.
otherwise, yeah,
And if he made that rule, that okay, then it could have been possible that he actually, I mean, it could be possible that he didn't make that rule, right?
yeah,
Now, if it is also possible that he might not have made that rule, that he will follow whatever rule he said he's going to follow, or whatever rule he has imposed on himself, then and from Faisal's point of view, it should be possible, because there is no rule that applies onto God. Now, if that is actually the case, then God, number one, he could be lying, right?
right,
Because no rule applies to God. So he cannot prove that God cannot lie, because no rule applies to God. Number one.
right, yeah,
Number two, if God has imposed a rule on himself, that he must follow what he has imposed on himself.
then that
If
rule
this
comes
is,
from outside. Has to come if it's, yeah, if
yeah, yeah, then the question that
has
okay,
to,
what rule apply would again, then God again would be subjected to a
where
rule.
does that rule hinge on? Basically, that's the
Exactly.
question.
Exactly.
Where,
And secondly, so basically, because God can possibly lie, there is no way for Faisal to exactly know that actually God has made this rule. He might just have been lying to us humans,
yeah,
right? That that he is going to, that he has number one, in the first place, that he has made this rule, that he only follows whatever rule he has imposed on himself. Number one, and number two, maybe he might not even have made that rule, or imposed this rule on himself.
no, for
That
then, yeah, at that point, Khali,
uh,
any epistemic, uh, access to knowledge of God or
right,
gods would be worthless pretty much, because you won't be sure about it.
right.
So yeah, I think
He
that's that's it.
with each step, Faisal is digging a bigger hole for himself.
Yeah, bigger and
He's
bigger hole
digging,
for himself,
yeah,
right?
he's digging a deeper and deeper hole for himself. I
Deeper
mean, I
and
think
deeper.
as of now, he has done nothing but he's been digging holes for himself.
Yes, totally, totally. आप सभी के सभी एक 19 सब्सक्राइबर हो और आपके 160 के सब्सक्राइबर हो जाएंगे, तब मुझे भूल मत जाना। आप लोग आपका चैनल जब भी से आपके 500 सब्सक्राइबर करीब थे। ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक यू, बट आई थिंक वी नीड टू गेट टू 20,000 subscribers, right? We are far below that mark, right? And for some reasons we can't have no, neither the live audience nor the subscribers. So if you can, maybe please go to other streams and highlight our channel. But anyways, coming back to the video, Madin, you still haven't gone past the gibberish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be, I don't know, assemble any thought when they're just talking.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they all we see is just they keep digging deeper and deeper holes for themselves, and then I think that SMK guy is like, he's I don't know what to say about him, because I've been on their streams and he's afraid of
Ignore him,
talking.
ignore him.
Totally, he's totally. I mean, he totally gets psyched whenever he sees me, right? I mean, जिसे कहते हैं ना हिंदी में, रूह कांप जाती है अंदर से। I think उसकी रूह कांप जाती है। But then, I mean, yeah, and then the reason is right there in front of you, because he just doesn't make any sense whenever he puts a point out there, right? And anyway, let's.
You ask us questions where you distort the idea of who God is. So please
Well, I'm
keep
just
it within
going
that.
off the definition of the word objective.
Yeah, but I'm telling you how we understand it, right?
Yeah, it's not quite the understanding that I have of the definition of the word objective, though.
Okay, what is your understanding of the word objective?
It's mind independent. It's true,
Okay,
no matter who you are or what you believe in.
so let me take
math.
this. So let's take an example. Okay, let's say there are 22 players on a field, and there's one referee. Okay, the referee doesn't care who the player is. If they commit a foul, all right, they are given a yellow card. Okay, is that decision a subjective decision from the point of view of the players, or is it an objective decision from the point of view of the players?
It's an objective thing of the objective rules of the game.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Right, and it is being who's the one who's deciding that the yellow card has to be given? Is it the referee or what?
No, the rules of the game.
No, the rules of the game are being applied by
I think this was an excellent point by this scholar, right? Perfectly right. You don't have to. I think, Martin, we did discuss briefly before we started the stream. I think this exactly highlights when you say, without God, you can't have morality or objective morality. I think that's all bunk, right? This example totally highlights that, right? And this guy answered it very well. It's the rules of the games that decide whether it's subjective or subjective, right? Neither the referee. Referee is just following something. Now, put this example for God, put the players as humans or whatever, living beings, whoever have come to know about that. The referee is still following some rules that are written out there, right? In this example, you can say, oh, okay, but those rules are written by men, right? Perfectly fine. But from the referee's perspective, there is an objective standard written somewhere, a rule book, right? It's an objective standard even for a referee. So why don't you guys get this, right? It's very simple. Even if these objective morality that you talk about, it's God. If you think it's coming from God, then he's not above and beyond it. It's not mind independent. But if it's coming from somewhere else, then it's subjective for him as well, and it's going to apply on him as well, right? Pretty much. Maybe even if he's the arbiter of it, pretty much, right? So it's not coming from maybe I said it wrong. Maybe it's coming from him. It doesn't probably apply in this case on him, but still, it's not he who's making it up. He's getting it from somewhere else, right? That's at least that point can be made. And then you can always say, okay, yes, if you who believe and who are theists, if you think that God can anchor objective morality in that similar sense, even atheists or whoever of other agnostic creed can also anchor their morality, objective morality, on something else. That's about it.
Exactly. I mean, the entire um, I don't know if with what intention Mac started this conversation. What he's trying to prove. I think he was trying to prove that objective morality does not exist, or maybe if you maybe he was trying to highlight an internal inconsistency point or internal critique, and I think he was going towards maybe the problem of evil, that if there are moral objectively true morals, or objective morality exists, and there are moral duties and God. I think he was trying to go to the problem of evil. Anyway, I mean, what Faisal just said and what he just tried to imply, that the rules of the game, even of even football or any other sports, Faisal considers them objective rules. Now, because they are now mind independent, anyone who breaks them, well, he's breaking the rule, and we can objectively say that yes, he has broken the rule. Now, there can be, in some cases, the rule could be such that subjectivity might be involved, right? Whether somebody committed a foul or not, so it could be, but in certain cases it could become subjective. But generally, the rules, if they are clear enough, then they can be objectively applied, or they can be very objective. There's a problem with that, what we just Philo already highlighted. If that is the point, then okay, then the argument that is presented by theists and Muslims as well, that atheists cannot have objective morality, now that no longer applies to at least Faisal, because his view is that even the rules of the game are objective. So yes, humans can also create, and those rules were created by humans. So if there can be such set of rules which have been decided by humans, then it can be applied objectively. You can consider them objective once they have been agreed upon, or once they have been sort of decided. You can consider them objective.
Totally. Martin, you want to add
Madan,
something?
you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that's what he's even saying. That's what he's saying. I think he is not saying that the rules of a football game become objective, so as long as there is a set of rules that the enforcer enforces, right? I don't think that's his point. I think he's using this as an analogy to suggest that that's what God is like, right? But he's not saying that human beings can therefore, but by implication, he's not admitting or conceding that human beings therefore are able to create objective morality by just simply having rules that they enforce or something like that. I think that he's using the analogy to bootstrap his divine command theory, because he only thinks
No,
that
he's saying our perspective is of those players, right? And in that sense, he's bringing this analogy, right?
I'm not sure that
So he's talking about us or Muslims being those players, basically. That's what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
in that sense, yeah.
he's talking about it from the perspective that God exists, and God is the
Yeah,
God.
but then when
Yes.
he's talking about
Yes.
objective, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So he's
go
talking
ahead.
about from the perspective that God exists and God is the referee, right? If I don't think he's there's any he's saying that as long as there's some sort of rules, then it becomes objective, right? Because he doesn't unless he explicitly says so, he clearly doesn't believe that without God you can have morality, objective morality, right? So, but the point is, what we're trying to get at is probably the idea that because he is giving into this idea, he's talking about this example of a referee. Therefore, the logical implication of his analogy is such that he has to now concede that human beings can go ahead and create morality. I don't think that is the logical implication, because his analogy, because these guys are just crap at describing things properly, right? Or explaining themselves. His analogy only makes sense by assuming already there's an objective reality, and then an objective morality, and then the referee being an analogy for God, right? Right. Now, if God didn't exist, then any referee would still
No,
be.
Madin, I think you probably got it wrong. I think he started the conversation as if that those rules he's talking about that the referee is giving are objective, basically,
Exactly. He
because
asked this question.
and
He's
so I
saying
think
if
you
a
were mistaken
referee,
here. I think, yeah.
yeah, because he clearly asked, he said, when a referee applies a rule or gives yellow card to someone,
Yeah,
is he
and that's how we
is he
start.
being objective? And Faisal actually believes that he's being objective because he's following the rules of the game. He clearly said that. Faisal said
Yeah,
that he's being
I know
objective,
that. I know that, following the rules of
which
the game.
means,
But yeah, go
yeah.
on.
So if he thinks that a referee can be objective, which means, or in this scenario, there is some objective rules that are being followed. This is what he's saying. Would you agree with that? He's saying there are some objective rules that are being followed in this case.
And he hasn't said that referee is God or whatever, right? He's
Yeah,
not
he's
talking
not,
about
of course.
referee being,
Of
he's
course, he's
not
not.
talking about that.
But yeah, but the implication of that would be that he believe that means that objective rules can be created by humans.
Yeah,
Now,
I don't
these are
think.
sports rules, but then any other objective rules can be created. We'll call it objective. We can call them objective. Even
Yeah, I know.
human created rules according to.
I know he's not gone ahead said the referee is God, but I think this point comes from the point after he has discussed it with this caller, the caller who says it has to be mind independent or something like that.
Right.
So then he responds by giving an example of, well, if a referee exists and he enforces certain rules, would you not say those rules are objective from the perspective of the player or something like that? It might not seem like it, but he's enforcing objective rules. I'm pretty sure that point is lodged is an attempt to bolster God's morality. He's not freely admitting, or I don't think the logical implication either is. I'll discuss the logical implication separately. But first of all, he's not freely admitting that the human beings can therefore create morality, so as long as there's some sort of objective enforcement. First of all, I don't
That
know
I
what
can agree with.
No,
That I can
I think
agree
we
with. He's
agree on
not
that.
explicitly agreeing
I
with
think
that.
he's implicitly saying that that referee is acting as if he's a god, right? And so, but then he didn't think through it properly. Maybe I think we all are right, and then he just probably didn't communicate his thought very clearly. So maybe other interpretations are possible as well.
I
Yeah, but
think
so
I think we understood him correctly. You know,
yeah.
I'll tell you why I think at least why I think I have understood him correctly is because if you look at it from the beginning, when he started this conversation, he was reluctant to say just the simple statement that yes, objective moral rules exist. He said that they exist from our perspective only.
Right. I think you're right.
So
Yes,
I
totally.
think we have understood him correctly,
Yes,
because
yes,
his
yes.
view is not that objective morality like truly
Can
exists.
exist outside of,
Yeah,
yeah,
he has,
yeah, totally,
yeah. So I
totally,
think he
totally.
knows the problem. He is aware of some of the problems that come up with the view of true objective morality. So that's why I think he has decided to say that he does not believe. He even said that, I don't say that morals are truly objective, but they're objective from our perspective. This is what he said.
Right. That's what he said, right? Yeah, totally. So, yeah,
Yeah. So. I mean, if the idea, so if the logical implication is the idea that if somebody just creates a set of rules and then applies it to everybody, and then it'll become objective, and maybe the logical implication is that. So let me just try to strengthen the idea here. So the logical implication might be, if God can just create a set of rules and he enforces it like a referee, and if we're happy to call that objective, like Muslims are, then on an atheistic world where there isn't any God, if a human being creates a set of rules and he applies it like a referee, then that also becomes objective. Is that what
Yes,
you're trying to,
yes,
is that the point that
yes,
you're trying to make?
yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is why I'm slightly about this, is because he said, for example, that it's a necessary being. You know, it's a necessary being. I think so. That might be the differentiating point, right? So maybe you'll have to attack the point where why it's different when it comes to a necessary being versus
yeah.
a
That becomes an arbitrary standard in that
possibly
sense,
so.
right?
Yeah. So it's just, yeah, it'll be a slightly different way of tackling it, though, right?
Yeah.
So so this is why I don't think he's neither freely admitting it nor is it as the logical implication of his view, because he's not saying that any person who makes up a set of rules, or persons, or a society who makes up a
No,
set
I
of
see, Madan. I think you heard me say initially that it doesn't matter where those rules the referees imposing on come from, and they could come from whatever, right? It could.
yeah.
See, in their
Well,
case, they're thinking
yeah, but that would be
referees.
the disanalogy, right? That would be the disanalogy, in the sense that that's the differentiating point. He would, I would imagine, Faisal would or should object to that by saying that, well, it does matter where it comes from, because if it comes from God, then it's objective, and if it comes from other beings, then it's not, simply because they're not necessary beings. Now, I've never heard of I've never heard of too many people make an argument like that in any way in like philosophical. Some people have, actually, I think. I mean, why should a necessary being's morality be different? But that's where you get to Euthyphro, and that's where you get to those sort of objections from atheists,
Yeah, I
because
mean, what I want to say is referee is just a means. I mean, why you ending at referee and saying, oh yes, that's God, and because that's a living being giving cards and stuff. I mean, I can replace a referee with a Hawkeye or whatever, a robot or whatever, an AI.
I think your
That
point,
Yeah,
doesn't
an
have
AI or
consciousness,
a
right?
computer
That
even,
yeah,
or
that,
even a
I
that
think
computer
doesn't have
maybe, right?
consciousness, and that's why I'm saying my argument against his argument is atheist can anchor it on any number of things,
Anything.
and that's the point.
Once he agrees that the rules that are being applied in
Yes,
soccer,
exactly.
if
That's the
he
point.
agrees that those are objective rules, if he agree, because and that is what he said, if he considers them objective, then okay, then these are just rules. Moral rules are also kind of rules. So the only thing that Madan you're saying is that more now what he can only argue for is that no, soccer rules can come from humans and be objective, but moral rules cannot be objective unless they come from God,
yeah, maybe no,
right?
I don't think he means that. I don't think he means
It
that.
would, because
I
this is
think
what it would mean.
I
This is
don't
what it
think
would
these
mean if
guys,
you.
I don't
Mhm.
think these guys understand what they're talking about, and that's why
Yeah,
this is,
that might be the case.
yeah.
That might be the case, but he's giving this analogy to prove basically that yes, objective. I think he understands that if you want to have this objective moral rules and not apply them to God, right? He wants to sort of, I think he wants to tackle that problem
Avoid
somehow,
that problem.
avoid that
Avoid,
problem basically,
right.
and
Oh yeah,
he's using this analogy to do this. He wants to
Mhm.
avoid that problem somehow, and he has used this analogy to prove that objective morality. This is how we see objective morality. That you won't apply it to the imposer of the rule, right? So I think that's what he's trying to do. But the analogy that he has used, I mean, with that, if he considers them objective, then I think my and Philo's objection would still apply, I think.
so yeah, so yeah, I don't think these guys know what they're really talking about that much
Yeah.
anyway. But I think they're doing it from a tunnel vision from their point of view, and they don't really mean. I genuinely don't think they really mean that referees and judges and legislators or politicians or any group of people can just suddenly make up objective rules now, because because if I had to steel man their point, because they're thinking from the framework of the following, right? They're not. If they said this, then I think your point would make more sense. As long there's a person who imposes a set of rules, and we think in our religion that it's God, right? And God makes it moral. Why does He make something moral? Because He sets the rules. If a person can therefore set the rules, then it's moral. Then I think it logically follows that in a world where God does not exist, then if agents like us can set certain rules and then a referee applies it, then it'll be an objective rule. But I think the differentiating point is that they're not saying that. That's not what they're saying. They're not saying that as long as might equals superiority or might equals right or whatever, or just as long as somebody set the rules. They're thinking God is. That's why, because I heard him clearly, the Faisal guy, I think, say that because it's necessary, and necessary being, and I do think there's a differentiating point there where they think there's something special about God. Now you can make the argument, what is that special thing, and maybe you can't argue it, and by that point you can
He
probably,
clarified.
yeah.
And then when he said necessary, when he was talking about the necessary being, he said he's necessary, therefore no rule applies to him, and that is why
Yeah,
he's necessary. That is what he
yeah,
said. So
yeah,
what he was talking about necessary being in that context. He's saying that necessary being cannot be subjected to any rules.
right, exactly. Okay,
That's
so
what he
there
was
you go.
saying.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so if that's what he thinks, a necessary being is such that. So this is very different from other kind of divine command theorists and so on, who, for example, they actually don't think it's because there's nothing beyond him. It's not like that. It's because God is good. They make arguments about God's goodness seated in him because
Yeah.
they realize that's just a crappy point. But in his situation, this Faisal guy situation, God, there's nothing beyond him, and therefore his rules go. Right? I think it's still
Sorry, can you
then,
repeat what you just said? God does. Sorry, what did you just say right now? God.
huh?
Okay, what did you just say? Can you repeat the last statement you said? God does. Uh,
There's
you
nothing
said
beyond God.
something. There is nothing beyond God. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as you said, there's no laws applying to him. There's no rules applying to him. There's no other.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no other
Mhm,
God telling God what to do. So he's the terminus point, the necessary being, the
mhm,
cutoff point. He's the
mhm.
main legislator, right? So
I
that.
think we did.
So in this guy's case, he thinks as long as there's some sort of main terminus point or legislator.
Madan's voice is gone. Madan,
Yeah, that's gone.
you lost the network probably. Yeah, I think
Right?
we did this.
In that case, it might not be a logical implication of his thesis.
No, we lost you for
We lost
past
you there,
5 seconds,
Madhan.
5 or 10 seconds.
For
Yeah, please
10 seconds, we
repeat.
lost you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that case, it might not be a logical implication of his thesis unless you, that atheists can therefore be moral. So as long as you have because he'll just say that to simplify it, a contingent being's moral system isn't objective, but because it's a contingent being, whereas a necessary being's moral system is objective, because there's nothing beyond him, or there's no other rules that he has to obey, or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we did have a stream about something similar to this, or probably some, God is amoral, right? I think was that in Hindi
Amoral, yeah,
yeah, God is amoral. I think no morality, no moral
applies
rules
to him.
apply to God. Basically, he can do whatever he wants, pretty
Yeah.
much, right? And he's not gonna be subjected to any
He says
moral
that,
judgment. Yeah,
yeah, he says that, but then he applies a rule on him as well.
yeah,
He
and he
says that
says
God
that
must obey his own rules, the rules
yeah.
that he apply on
I
himself.
think it's a
I mean,
contradiction-filled
yeah,
statement. I think. I mean, you
yeah,
just can't escape a contradiction there.
exactly. But and the problem is that they must have this rule at least. They need to have this rule
Yeah,
that God will
because if
obey
you,
his own the rule that he imposed on himself,
yeah,
because otherwise then there will be a Pandora's box
and
of
that
problems.
leads, yeah, that leads to a whole lot of it opens up a
Exactly.
Pandora's box, basically,
Yeah, the
right?
divine
I
deception
mean, why
problems and
would
all of these.
why would God keep your promise to give you a Jannah? He doesn't have to, even if he
Yeah,
writes it in the Quran,
yeah,
even if it's right. I mean, first
yeah.
thing first, you can't even come to the conclusion that that's the right statement, that he's
You're
not
right.
lying to you.
Right,
I think
right.
Khali mentioned that earlier. But even if that's the truth, he doesn't have to keep his promise, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he can just, why? I think a
Because
whole lot of
because
problems.
even in the Quran it says that God can ask anyone, God can hold accountable anyone, but no one can hold a God accountable for anything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
no one
remember.
can
Yeah,
hold
I remember.
accountable. No one can hold God accountable for anything from their
Accountable for
perspective,
it. Yeah,
even if he goes back on his word.
right. We have fans of Mufti Wajidi here. Hello, Muda. Who's the fan?
Okay. Yeah.
I am, right? Why you don't go to the bed? Yeah, I think I went there
Okay.
maybe a couple of weeks back, or maybe a week back, and then they didn't have a discussion with me. Anyways, moving on.
I think when you'll move on, I think Madin, you'll see what I mean. The level of incoherence will increase even
We'll
further.
keep
So
increasing. This is like the
we
step
keep
by step.
increasing.
It's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's a stairway to heaven.
yeah. That's cool.
He's doing what his job is told to do.
Again, you're basically taking the human aspect. There's an agency deciding. It's not a mechanical thing. Okay, you're basically turning an agent into a mechanical process. That's not
Let
how
me
things
ask you a
happen.
question: does referee makes the laws? Do they
The
make
referee
the
does not
rules?
make the law, but he does impose.
Do they make the rules of soccer?
No, the rules have not been made, but they have been imposed by an agent. All right, when they're being
Yeah,
imposed
I
by an
agree they're
agent,
imposed
it
by
is
the referee.
subjected.
Like
It is
the cop
subjective
imposes
to
the
the
law. The
referee's.
cop doesn't make the law. The law is made
Again,
by.
You heard Madan. He's saying that he didn't make the rules, but he's imposing, right? So I mean, in his terminology, his analogy, his God is also the imposer, and there is an objective standard. That's what I was referring to, basically, right? That there's
No, no, no.
somebody can just take that up and then say, oh, there is an objective standard, right? With this analogy, I'm not saying he's right with this analogy, but I'm just saying from
Yeah,
this what the response he gave here.
because he appealed to divine command theory just a few minutes ago earlier. So I think he didn't realize probably that the referee is not imposing his own created rules. Rather, he's following some set of rules which are not created by him. He's just imposing them. So I think he might have realized that later on. So I think he's not saying that there are some objective set of rules that he's following. I mean, that objective set of rules exist independent of the agency necessarily, and then yes, referee is a agency, and the independent sort of rules would be the moral rules. I don't think he's saying that in this case, but I think he just might not have realized it earlier on that this in this case the referee is just an imposer and not the creator of these rules.
yeah. I mean,
Cool.
so let me just add some add some light to this silly discussion that these guys are having in the video, right? Just to clarify. Um, First of all, mind-independent morality. I mean, these examples are actually given in general as an example of how things can't be objective if it's like this. For example, if if something is mind independently true, like the rules of a chessboard or rules of a football game. We try to test it out by saying, can it, would it be still true if it wasn't created by anybody, right? And would they still apply? And the example of football or chess, even, you can easily see that this was created by humans. It was constructed by humans. It's socially constructed, agreed upon rules. The queen can go this way, the king can go that way. All the other pieces can do this or that. But if we just change the rules, then it would be different. If all human beings cease to exist, all agents cease to exist, then those rules would die with it, because they're just made up by humans. But then you can compare it to something that seems more objective, like 2 + 2 = 4. And the difference between the two things is that 2 + 2 = 4 seems like if all human beings had passed away and become deceased, it will still be the case that 2 + 2 = 4. It's not arbitrary in the sense that you can try a different language, you can call it something different if you wish, but it will still be the case if you have two things and another two things, it will always equal to 4, right? It will still be the case that triangles add up to 180 degrees, and these rules therefore are discovered rather than created. They just seem to be something that are mind independently true, whereas games like football, chess, they tend to be mind dependently true, right? So the game of football is subjective, whereas the game of the game of mathematics is not a game at all that was created like that. And so people want to make morality, if you want to call it mind independently true, they want to make morality, at least a case for morality, seem closer to mathematics and logic, where it's actually beyond the creation of human beings. Whereas stuff like football, chess are the creation of human beings, and it can be changed anytime you want. After you agree upon the subjective rules, yeah, you can apply them in a consistent, coherent manner or something like that. But I think we should distinguish between two things. Saying something is being somebody is being objective and neutral and impartial can still be due to a subjective, ontologically subjective moral system or moral or rule-based system, right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So I can be fair, I can be neutral, I can be impartial, right? On accordance to a subjectively created set of rules that are made up. Let's say I make a rule, made a rule up now. People should be everybody should wear yellow jackets from now on, right? Apart from XYZ people, and I might not be discriminatory when I apply the rule, right? I might not care about somebody's skin color. I might not really care about somebody's, and the rule itself is subjective. I just made it up, right? But then I can go ahead objectively applying it, right, in an impartial, neutral way, without going, oh, Nadeem, you're too brown. Oh, Philo, I don't like you as a person, so I'm not going to apply it. No, the referee has to be fair and he has to apply it. But the rules themselves were created still by people. I just made one up there, like everybody has to wear these sort of jackets, and there's some rules and exceptions when you can't wear it, and I just apply it like a police officer. And so you can be neutral to apply certain rules, but that doesn't make the ontology of the system that you're applying mind independently objective. You've created it through subjectively agreed upon rules.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. Any moral system or even set of or a system of rules will or I think in fact, in all cases, would be selected subjectively, but they can be applied objectively once you have
Yeah.
agreed to
Thought
apply it.
upon, I would say, thought upon by subjectively, and then
Yeah.
could be applied objectively, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, they can be created or selected subjectively, and then
Mhm.
application of that can be objective.
Right. All right. Shall we move
Yeah,
on?
insofar the rules make insofar the rules themselves are set, then you can, because I mean, if you have a rule like black people can't do this and white people can't do that, you can still try and apply it as neutrally as you want, but the rules themselves are not neutral, on its face. But that creates another.
But they're objective.
Yeah.
I mean, you can apply them objectively.
Yeah, I mean, insofar the rules allow, but if you bake into the rules as many many discriminatory type of things as possible, then it's going to be very hard. Like you can have a rule that says you don't have to apply it fairly or something like that. Yeah, but then you're following the rules, so this creates paradoxes. Right?
Oh yeah, I mean, but this again, I mean, that is a problem in the rule itself, right?
Yeah.
If
So
you create a
real
if you create a
question
paradoxical kind of rule with the intention of creating a paradoxical kind of rule that you can be unfair, then
Yeah.
I mean, when the moment you apply it, are you being fair or unfair?
Yeah. So you can be I would at that point say that are you a good arbiter of the rules?
Yeah, it's like saying the rule is to not follow any rules. Now,
Yeah. At this point, I would say we measure the referee's refereeing ability by are you a good arbiter of the rules, whatever the rules are, whether they're neutral, fair, or not, right? But that way we can find out that if he's consistently applying it, right? But he may not be, because it might be something in the rule itself for him to not be objective. The rule may say, for example, the referee has infinite discretion to use his subjective feelings, right? At that point, by doing so, he's adhering to the rule. But yeah, he's not violating the rule. So he's a good referee.
Yeah.
But the way he applies it is as unfairly as possible, as subjectively as possible. But that's his duty to do so. But I think the real quest for morality is not just finding some subjective rules that we agree upon. The real quest for morality, objective morality, I should say, is to find a rule that, irrespective of agreement, it's objectively true, like mathematics.
What you just said about the referee being subjective, I think what you're saying is that is it objectively true that subjective rules exist, or something like that, right? Is it like objectively true that subjectivity exists, or something like that? Maybe I'm just thinking about it. When you say that you can, the rule is.
Yeah.
You're not saying that. I'm saying that if you say to the referee that okay, the rule is that you can do whatever you want, be as subjective as you want to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But we can still say
The
he's
objective.
a good
So in other words, the objective rule is to be as subjective as you can be.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
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 So he technically he would be obeying it, but if he does it, right? But everything that he creates or decides is subjective, right? So my point is, if you're adhering to some rules, the referee is adhering to some rule here. He's not being neutral, fair, and impartial, and right. In fact, his duty is to not be that. His duty is to be as whimsical as possible. So in this situation, the referee is merely being a good custodian of the code, right? And
Of the
not
rules.
good as a person. If good custodian of the code, that's it. We can't say he's an impartial referee or fair referee. These terms have to have any meaning anyway.
I think it's all about the. I mean, these are all.
We're going too deep into this.
Yeah, too deep.
This issue.
I mean, these are all kind of paradoxical statements.
Yeah,
like if you say, if I say he's consistently inconsistent, so what would you say? Is he consistent or inconsistent?
He's consistent. I would say he's consistent because.
So you're saying no. I'm saying listen. I'm saying if I say that he's.
What are you talking about? That's the question.
I'm saying if I say that someone is being Mr. A is consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
So is he being consistent or inconsistent?
Yeah.
He's being inconsistent. There's no contradiction or paradox because he's consistently being inconsistent. Right?
Yeah.
So in his it seems like a paradox. It seems like a paradox when you say it in words.
Yeah. If your aim in life is to be a failure, are you successful or a failure? That's the thing.
I think we're just having fun with these a bit too much fun with these kinds of.
I think it seems like a contradiction, but if you think about it, it might not be because there's nothing wrong with being consistently
inconsistent.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
consistently
So would you say
There's-
that if
I
it's
mean, but-
first of all, if it is a
Yeah.
paradox, I've
Yeah.
given you an example. We've discovered an
and
example.
it's not a
of true-
paradox. Yeah, you're right. It's not a
Yeah.
paradox.
If it's a paradox, it's a true paradox at the very minimum.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is.
I
a
mean,
paradox.
what that would, I mean, if that is the case, then the only problem would be you cannot simply just call him consistent. At least you can sort of, oh, he's very consistent. I would say,
Yeah, he's
actually,
not
no, he's
consistent.
very
He's
inconsistent.
consistent at inconsistencies.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a wordplay. I mean,
Wordplay.
nothing
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I think we're going way beyond
yeah,
our
let's,
pay package, probably.
yeah, let's move ahead with the video. Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Heck, you're misunderstanding this, right? When a yellow card is given, there is a subjective element to it. It is because the referee decided that a yellow card would be given. All right. If the referee decides not to give a yellow card on a foul, he can do that. The law is there. But is that decision still objective or not? From the point of view of the players, it is. It's not subjective. It is still objective. From the point of view of the referee, it is a subjective decision, and it's completely subjective regardless of whether he gives or doesn't give, whether he applies or doesn't apply, right? So you got to be a bit more nuanced in your approach to this.
Well, I like you took something, the morals, which is something that applies, I think, to everybody. I would include God in this, right? When I say morals are objective, I don't just say only for humans, right? I include everything. But
okay,
and you turned it into like, well, in this particular game where the referee is doing his job, right? And I agree, like it's like the rules of chess. The rules of chess are objective. If you want to play classical chess, you got to play classical chess by the rules of classical chess.
Mm-hmm. So
but
let's actually play your game.
Anybody who plays chess, right?
Let's play your game,
again?
right? So
can you pause here? So I mean, once again, when he said that these rules, the rules are objective from the player's perspective. He said that, and he's actually, I mean, he's saying and asserting that the rules are objective from the perspective of the players.
Yes.
However, I mean, although he's saying that from the referee's point of view, they're subjective.
Yeah.
Okay. And another point,
The referee can apply them subjectively.
Yeah. I think one thing is,
I'll tell you what is happening. He's not really sure. Sometimes he's anchoring those rules from the from referee's perspective. Sometimes he's anchoring those rules from the perspective beyond referee, basically. And at least that's what my thought is. That's what I'm thinking. Because from his last point, it seemed to me he was thinking of referee being anchoring those rules, and he was not willing to talk about that those rules are written by some whoever the rule makers of the game are, right? Now
it seems like he's actually saying, if this is meant to be an analogy to God, it seems like he's actually saying that God is subjectively creating the rules, but then just from our
no, that's why I'm saying he's confused right now. He's confused right now. Earlier he did give that kind of
I don't think he understands. Right. I don't think this is why I think these people need to read philosophy, because I don't think they realize that every single theologian has a problem with this. Every single theist philosopher wants to not use this argument. That's how weak and pathetic it is, right? That from the point of view is subjective from the lawgiver. He's basically maybe I don't think he realizes that this is just not the way you argue for objective morality, where you just simply say God just subjectively made it up, and then it's from our point of view from then on it is objective or something like that. No, that's not how it works. Nobody thinks that's not the main debate within philosophy. Everybody agrees. Everybody agrees if somebody subjectively made up some rules and you follow those rules, then it doesn't become objective suddenly from the point of view of others, right? It's simply you're just all simply following subjective rules, and the whole debate within philosophy is to not do that. Let's find something where you can't just subjectively make it up and then follow it. Let's find something that is more concrete. This is why more sophisticated theologians and philosophers try to say God is the objective standard, and it's not arbitrary to God, and it's not subjective to God. and then they try to anchor it into his properties or something like that. Maybe some sort of
Yeah,
characteristic.
He will say that. He will also say that later on, that God is the objective.
yeah,
He will
that's
he
why
will
I'm
say that
saying he's
later on.
confused. He's utterly
He's
confused
confused.
because
I think,
he's going from one point to the other.
yeah,
He's anchoring outside, then thinking of referee as God, then not thinking of referee as. Now he's gonna
yeah,
say that no, the referee is, but the essence is that rules are or morality is coming from
And
those essence, basically.
can I just
Yeah.
also say what is he saying that is from the perspective of the referee? It is subjective.
yeah.
If,
Yes, he's saying that. He's saying
He's
that.
yeah,
saying that it's subjective from the referee's perspective.
The
He's
referee's
subjectively
perspective,
applying
but
it. He's
objective from the perspective of the
yeah,
player.
of the players.
because the rules of a football game, is not either is subjective for everybody or it's not, right? So if the rules of a football game are if the rules of a football game are objective, and then it'll be also objective from the perspective of the referee. I mean,
Yeah, I
I
think
need.
his application maybe. I think maybe that's what he's talking about. He's thinking the application might be subjective from the perspective of the referee, right? Maybe he mistakenly thinks a foul, which is not a foul, because objective that
Yeah,
might
he
not
thinks
be
that's
a
a
foul.
foul, but actually it's not.
Yeah, it's not. And maybe that's in so. That's how he's thinking, probably.
Yeah, because the rules of a football game are such that the referee has to follow certain rules as well. He has to give, he has to, for example, if the ball goes offside, I'm assuming we're talking about soccer, right? If the ball goes offside, there is a particular angle it has to go towards, and certain people have to be behind the ball. That's a real rule. That's not something that he subjectively, merely decides. If the referee was deciding things entirely subjectively, then there is no rules, right? It's just whatever the referee wants to make up. So clearly that's not what's happening. If the rules of football were objective, let's hypothetically imagine that these are transcendental laws in a game of football. The offside rule, substitutions when they happen, it has to go for 90 minutes. If a player doesn't go for the ball but hits the player in the leg, then that's a yellow card. If it's a bit rougher, then it has a red card, right? And then clearly the referee would be also adhering to, generally speaking, objective rules as well. He doesn't have the willy-nilly free discretion to decide whatever he wants at any point. They're constrained by rules. Yeah, his choice and freedom isn't unlimited, right? Where he can just decide what he wants at any point. So I'm not sure. So if these were objective rules, then the referee would also be objectively constrained by it. But now what Philo said is that because the human being is an imperfect practitioner of it, he might apply it wrongly. Yeah, fine. I agree with that. Like, there's some discretion level, some margin of discretion is going to be involved in any judgment, right? And human beings will be somewhat argue about what's right and wrong in certain situations. Now that's fine, but how does this fit into this conversation? I don't understand. Like, why?
Yeah, that's what is baffling, right? I think
Why is
we
Qaiser
can.
talking about this? This doesn't add to his point. Why is this similar
Yeah.
to God? Because God, what is he talking about? Is God an imperfect practitioner? Is he? What is he? So this is why
No,
I'm
he's confused now since he has brought subjectivity to this referee. Now he can't anchor his God into this analogy anymore. At least in terms of calling referee being the arbiter of objective things, right? So I think he's confused, but I think we all are understanding it, right? I think the referee. I think his point is probably valid when he's saying that the referee has his own subjective understanding of the rules and may apply those. By and large, he'll apply those rules, from an objective perspective in the right manner. But he can't, he might have a very slight bit different understanding of a slight touch may not be a yellow card, just unless until you kick somebody's foot and then it's a yellow. I'm not that big a fan of soccer, by the way, so there's like a very limited understanding. But whatever that might be a foul, some other referee might not call it a foul, but just some other referee might call it a foul, right? So there would be a subjective opinion based on that. But other than that, I'm not quite sure where he's trying to fit this God in.
Yeah,
Basically,
I mean,
is he trying
how does this add to his point? Because the other guy said, it has to be minded independent, and then he just started talking about a referee who's clearly he's saying it's subjective, right, in his decision making. So how does that debunk the caller, right?
Not really. All right, let's listen forward. Shall we increase the speed of it a little bit? Maybe I think we should be able to understand it. What do you say?
Yeah, you can increase it a bit.
Right now it's 1.25. Maybe run at 1.5. Let's try it.
Yeah, let's try it.
Think morality is objective. Let's give me the answer to all your questions. Do you want to pose me your question? What was the first question that you asked me?
Is morality objective?
Okay, what is your response?
No.
No. Okay. The second?
Are there objective moral duties? No.
What is your response? No. Okay, next.
Is it immoral not to do an objective moral duty? No, because there's no objective moral duties in the first place.
The next one?
Does God do the objective moral duties?
Okay,
No.
that you don't even believe in a God, so it doesn't even go there, right?
Right.
So the first three, in your position, right? My question to you is, if morality is completely subjective, and you've responded no to all of them, right? Then what is morality?
Do you want me to explain how I think morality works?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, just give me a second. So we have the evolution of the brain and mirror neurons that give feelings of empathy.
Okay, I don't understand if he's saying morality is subjective. What is morality? What is that question? I mean, can someone explain if that question even makes sense?
You see, what he's trying to say is that by how they define morality, I mean, subjective morality doesn't even probably mean something. It is what it seems to mean, because he's saying, what do you mean by morality if it is not objective? Which means then this phrase objective morality shouldn't use this terminology. They should just say morality. Morality doesn't exist, or morality exists. So this using the word objective and subjective, why they use it? If the concept of objectivity is built into morality, the very definition of morality, according to what Faisal seems to be implying, then why are you using this word objective? It is already a part of that concept.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, move on.
This combines with understandings of situations and leads to ideas of what is right and wrong. Let me give an example, because
evolution of the brain and neurons.
Yeah, mirror neurons. That's what leads to feelings of empathy. That's what allows us to learn by observation.
Leads to feelings of empathy. Okay. Feelings of empathy.
Yeah, and this combines with understandings of situations and leads to ideas of what is right and wrong, right?
Now the problem is that
I haven't quite finished yet. It's really when I get to the example that I make this understood.
But your first premise is incorrect. Mirror neurons have to do with specific motor acts.
Let him finish up.
If you actually look into it, mirror neurons are one of the lead things that people think leads to empathy.
No, they think leads to it, but the only thing that they have been conclusively linked to is specific motor acts. You're presenting hypothesis.
How do you spell?
I agree. It's hypothesis. This is my opinion of how I think morals work. That's what the question.
Why should we take your opinion?
Why should I take yours?
No,
I thought you asked me a question. Do you want to know my answer or not?
No, we are going to. But I'm just asking why we should take your opinion. Because if your opinion is coming from somewhere, from an authority, I would understand.
How about this? Listen to it and see if it sounds reasonable to you.
Brother,
that's how you accept something.
Sure, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. I'll let you finish up with your example. Please go ahead.
Okay. So an example, like when I burn myself, I feel pain from that. I observe that when others burn themselves, it seems like they feel that pain as well. When someone I love dies, I feel pain and sorrow. It seems like other people, when they have people that they love die, they feel the same thing, right? And it comes down to this learning from these situations that gives us the ideas of, okay, that's not a good thing. That is a bad thing. There's a lot of social contracts that people are doing unconsciously that lead to what our morality is. This is why slavery, while long ago was seen as acceptable, is not anymore today. This is why if we had a machine that could just produce meat at the push of a button, perfect little meat steaks, we probably would see it as immoral to kill animals to eat them afterwards, because there's no reason to kill the animal. Morals adapt to the environment like this.
Completely. I mean, this is why I stopped you at the first premise. You're building it on hypotheses on mirror neurons, which have specifically to do with specific motor acts, and you're making a presumption based upon a reaction to motor acts, and you're equating physical reactions to morality. Your entire.
Do you feel empathy when you see a moral situation?
Okay, this guy, I don't think Mac has put up his case very strongly, by the way, because he brought in many different things, right? Mirror neurons, empathy, then something hurts, something, I can feel pain and all those things. And yeah, I think maybe he could have just grounded in one strong argument saying, okay, pleasure and pain, right? That's my objective standard, right? That's where I ground my morality. Perfectly fine, I think. You can bring some other, deontology or something as well. You can put in there, right? And now see what happens. And I think that Mac is probably, has been lazy in putting up his case, but SMK jumps in and says mirror neurons, right? He's made a couple of arguments in between. He just didn't, heed at that. He did
What is he
those
talking about?
arguments.
Motor acts.
Motor acts. I'm not quite sure. I think mirror neurons.
What is this motor
Yeah, so
acts?
Philo, would you be able to, at your discretion, of course, with your subjective discretion, like a referee, would you? I'm just joking. Would you be able to get Google up and just type in mirror neurons and what they do, and put it up? Yeah, because
Yeah, we'll do that. Mirror neurons. I think this guy is.
because mirror neurons, of course, on their own don't do anything other than have a very instinctual feeling like kind of thing, right? It's a much more complex neurological process to start thinking stuff like that's not good or that's not nice, right? It's not the neurons themselves that do that. It's a combination of neurons. It's part of your neurological system, including the rest of your brain, right? Including learnt rules over time, right? So moral. Yeah. So this is more of a descriptive case of why we have moral attitudes, maybe that why we have certain attitudes that societally we term moral. It's not really a case for philosophical morality. It's really just a descriptive case of the biological evolution or biological reality behind morality. What are the components of it, right? That this niche thing that we do as humans and other mammals and other animals do, that they may cooperate, they may be nice to each other, and we
Yeah,
call that morality.
Tigers may be as fierce as they can be, but when they have cubs, the tigers, they you see that empathy over there, right? Then that's what he's talking about pretty much,
Yeah,
right, Mac?
and that's obviously it's not mirror neurons alone, because I think a mirror neuron only does is like if you see somebody's hand get stabbed, and you might feel a bit of pain in your own, and you go, "Ooh, that hurts," right? But the feeling of the idea of the more complex thought of
The empathy, yeah.
the
I'm not
empathy
quite
and
sure. The empathy is not it's mirror neurons. I think it's part of it, not whole of it, I guess, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
yes, it's like yeah, it's like trying to say why you like McDonald's, why we should be eating McDonald's, and go because of this digestive system thing that happens. Clearly, that's not the reason why you want to have McDonald's, right? But that is a part of it, right? Because something in our digestive system, maybe this chemical reaction here or there, makes you feel hungry. But why is it McDonald's that you want is a more of a complex thing. And similarly, the mirror neuron would just evoke a little bit of instinctual feeling of pain when you see somebody else in pain, right? But it could very equally be a selfish one, right? Where you want to retract and recoil. But the more complex thought of be nice to that person, or that's not, be compassionate and have empathy. It's more than just a mirror neuron involved. Just like the more complex thought of McDonald's is more than just an enzyme in your in your digestive system somewhere, right? Or your serotonin or dopamine. It's all a host. It's a host of all of these things, including your memory cell, including the entire complexities of your brain in function. Right? Morality isn't entirely just a neuron or mirror neurons, yeah, but it's part of it. So he's right. The caller's right.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of guests who are posting messages. So if you guys don't mind, let's go through those messages. And if maybe shall we open the link up? I think these guys are gonna just talk the same gibberish up until the end. I guess we would rather have somebody drop by and have a conversation. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Shall I
yeah,
make that?
that's fine.
It's already.
Early before, yeah, as you invite people on, early on when we started going live, I remember talking about the makeup of morality, and I did mention mirror neurons, but I also mentioned game theory. I also mentioned stuff like kin selection. I also mentioned stuff like oxytocin, and it's a host of things, not just one thing, including the environment. The moral rules that we have today is not something that is just merely one thing. You know, stuff like homosexuality should be permissible, not banned, or something like that, is a more complex societal, part biological, part societal thing. We use our reason. You know, the evolutionary biologist Francesco Aiola, for example, wrote a paper on this, and his paper is generally correct. It's a combination of many things. It's a combination of many biological processes and discovery of things using our cortex, right? But that feeling, those mirror neurons are definitely involved at engaging in moral thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, what I've done is I've made the link public, and anyone who wants to join in, just to have a cordial conversation, uh, is more than welcome to drop by, and have a conversation. You could be a Muslim, you could be a Hindu, you could be a Sikh, you could be a Zoroastrian, Christian, Jew, whatever, Buddhist, and you can either put forth your position and defend it as in have a conversation rather than defend, basically. Put forth your arguments, and we'll give probably arguments against it, or what we feel are weaker points of your arguments. And otherwise, you can come in and drop by and question our position, maybe grill us on why we believe what we believe, or why we don't believe in all those things, right? So yeah, I've made the link public. It's you can see it right here, and it's also pinned. Okay, what shall we do next? I think I'll add the video. Let's run it for a little bit more and see what it has. I think it's just gonna get worse for Faisal. All right.
Situation happen.
Sorry, I don't even have to. I don't have to see it happen, and I can feel empathy.
Okay, so there is empathy. So even if I'm wrong about the mirror neurons, there is empathy involved in this, right?
That's neither here nor there.
Oh, does empathy have something to do with morality?
Does empathy have something to do with morality?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So do you understand?
Again, you based it. Listen, you based it on a neural function. I'm saying you're basing it on a neural function is completely wrong.
Well, dude,
That's a precept.
I think he just said even if no mirror neurons, empathy. I mean, he said something to do. He didn't say completely nothing to do. Maybe something to do with mirror neurons, and that's probably a fair statement. But other things could be attributed.
Yeah, he said even if I'm not seeing the thing, then but why? Mirror neurons is not mirror neurons isn't just visual based. The mirror neuron reaction can happen when you imagine it as well. So what the heck is he talking about? Right. Like if I imagine a sword going into an arm, do you feel a sense of pain? Well, let me give you a more visceral example. Imagine a sword going into somebody else's testicles. Ooh, do you feel a squeamishness?
Do you feel it? No, yeah. I mean, you don't even have to take a sword. Somebody just kicked the nuts, right?
Yeah.
Somebody just kicked the nuts, and you see that, and you feel that, right? That's the function of you.
There is a physiological reaction, but
that's a huge reaction, right? Because you sense that your brain just goes haywire as to what just happened, kind of, right? And that's the mirror neuron, right?
Yes. And it's well established. Sorry, I apologize, but it's well established that those neurons have that function. That it,
right.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, move on.
Proven yet, right? That's all you really have.
You're making a link.
Yeah, okay.
A very, very bad link. And you're saying,
of how I think this works.
Hold on.
Yes.
Okay, so that's your presupposition. Now the question I want to ask you is fine. That's your idea. I reject it. Now you need to tell me why morals apply to God.
No. Don't even go to God. I don't think morals apply to God. We reject that notion completely.
Right? I reject it. I want to know why you think morals apply to God.
Well,
no,
because once you say morals are objective,
we don't even need to go there. SMK, we don't even need to go there. The reason why I'm basically questioning it, right? His approach. Number one, what's the standard? Where are you getting this from? Is there an authority that actually brought it? Because remember this, when it comes to morality, Mac, just so you understand where I'm coming from, when it comes to morality, unless it is subscribed to by a majority or by a significant group of people, I consider it as worthless, right? No matter what your opinion is, that this is what moral standard should be or whatever it is, right? It's not a moral standard whatsoever. Okay.
Just listen.
Is there a face
Did he
palm?
just say?
Is there a face palm
Yeah.
function in the whole of YouTube so that face palm fills up the whole screen that's out there in the live stream right now? I don't see it. I wish there was one. Yeah.
I mean, what is he trying to say? He's saying that unless a majority adheres to a
Yeah.
certain
What
set
is
of
it?
rules,
What is it? What is it?
he
Subjective.
considers
This
it
is not
meaningless.
subjective.
What do you mean by majority? The majority of the world does not adhere to the Muslims set of moral rules. So would you
Right.
consider them worthless?
Yes, exactly. I think he's getting from bad to worse basically, right? He started bad
Yeah.
and now he's getting worse.
Get it, Chris?
Because it needs to be subscribed to. There needs to be some form of an authority that can take this and actually create something worth it. And that authority doesn't necessarily have to be an individual. It could be a social construct. It could be the majority of people having this social norm. That if somebody goes against that morality, that is then seen as that this is something wrong. Now, the problem with how you've described it is that it's so generic. It is so generic that every moral standard fits within it, right? No matter if it is a Hindu standard or a Christian standard, a Muslim standard, an atheist standard, everything fits in there. I want to understand, what do you follow and where are you getting those moral standards from, right? So that's what I'm interested in, because this is a very generic example, right? Which does not necessarily tell us where it's coming from. It does show us the mechanics of how it works in humans.
It did tell you where it came from, though.
No, it doesn't.
Really?
It's evolution of the brain. But evolution is not
from the people, from the social contracts. When I feel pain, I can tell others feel pain. There's a learning here, right?
Okay. Tell me how morality has evolved over time, right? And how that is actually conducive to human civilization. Because moral standards, more or less, are pretty much the same. Right? Do not kill unless it is for a life for a life. Pretty much, that's the moral standard that most people understand. Right? You go against that, you can enforce something against it, where a family member of yours has been killed, right? The family still grieves, right? And you catch the criminal lives today. The criminal lives maybe in a prison cell, and they get paid for by the government. They get paid for by your own tax dollars. The family whose family member got killed is paying for the life of that criminal now, right? How is the family ever going to feel justified in whatever standard you're setting up? Now, the old adage, life for a life, right? Tooth for a tooth, eye for an eye, right? That is an adage of justice. Okay. Now, my question to you is, if I'm going to move away from this particular standard, what is it that I need to be able to move away from this? Okay. I have my own understanding of where and how moral standards can change or can be different, but I want to understand from you where you're getting yours from.
Yeah, like what's going to change your moral standard? What you're going to use for a moral standard is the understanding that you're getting from your environment around you.
Okay, so basically, the more knowledge you have, can I sort of condense it down to the idea that the more knowledge, the more data you have, the more knowledge you have of something, the better standard you can come up with. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say understanding instead of knowledge. You can know things and not really understand them and not be applying them right. Understanding is really key.
Okay, so knowledge and wisdom.
Sure.
Okay, so in my paradigm, God is all-knowing and all-wise. Does he set the standard for morality, or do you or I set the standard for morality?
From my perspective, no, it's not him.
No, not from your perspective. I'm asking from my perspective.
From your perspective, yes, God is the standard of morality.
If he is all-knowing and all-wise, right, is his moral standard objective now? There's no knowledge outside of what God knows. There's no wisdom outside of what God is, right? Is the moral standard objective now?
Does it apply to him as well?
Again,
Yeah, shooting. This is called shooting in your own foot, pretty much, right? I think he's not understanding where he's going, and this guy.
I asked you the question on. We basically already discussed this, right? He's not subject.
I mean, that guy should have straight away said, no, this is not objective, right?
Then no. If it does apply to him, then yes.
He's not subject to it, right? From our perspective, okay, fine. You want to keep it that way. From our perspective, right? Is the moral standard objective or not?
From your perspective, the moral.
From the perspective of creation.
From the perspective of what?
of creation. Like he's the creator, we are the creation. From the perspective of creation, are those moral standards that God provide us, are they objective moral standards, number one, and are they the best moral standards that can be achieved by any human exist or at any level of existence?
From your perspective, yeah, I'd think you'd say yeah.
Yeah. So from our paradigm, we have objective moral standards and we have a subjective application of those moral standards. All right. Now, when you enforce your own moral paradigm into our into this particular situation, that's where you come across the issue. Now, I want to ask you, right? If God exists, is this moral question no longer a question for you to ask us, right? Does this, since we've already agreed that from this perspective, from our perspective, if God exists, he is the source of objective moral standards, right? And he would provide us with the best moral standards that any society can have at any given point in time, right? Because he is all-knowing, all-wise, right? So
I'm just failing to understand, what does all-knowing, all-wise has to do with whatever is coming from, or whatever his commands are, being objective? Is there a link that I just can't think through?
I mean, it's because the other guy said it's about understanding and reflection, reason, or something like that. Understanding. So he took the Muslim took that as okay, then what if the greatest person of understanding said it? Wouldn't it? It's a messy conversation and it's incoherent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to have, just an all-knowing, all-wise, and then whatever he says has to be objective. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Anyway.
So that's because he accidentally I don't know if it's accidentally, but he misrepresented what the other one was saying, because he said he capitalized on the fact that the caller said it's about understanding, and then went with it basically. But
Yes.
the other caller also said there has to be some empathy or something, right? So clearly it's not just understanding, but it's the moral point of view that comes from empathy or something, right?
Mhm.
And so if the Faisal, is it Faisal, the guy who's talking, the Muslim guy who's talking?
Yeah, Faisal.
If the Faisal guy said that, it's about empathy and understanding and all this, then maybe he'd be a bit more persuasive, at least, because that gets closer to the idea of divine command theorists who make the argument that God is compassionate and benevolent and he's all wise, therefore he sets the perfect moral code, which isn't very different from what atheists say, that it's about moral realists and objective morality advocates who are atheistic and secular. They say something similar as well. It's about empathy and logic, right? It's about compassion and fairness, caring, and stuff like that. Yeah, and reason as well, because you can be compassionate but stupid, in which case you won't make very good moral rules, or you won't discover the right what the right thing to do in a situation, right? But if you have empathy and you have intelligence, then you're getting close to it. Now the difference between God and human being here is just that God is like a perfect version of what humans aspire to be. God is, so if God is compassionate and infinitely knowledgeable, then clearly you're going to get to perfect justice or something. Yeah, but I think both of these guys are not missing.
Yeah, I think you'll still have that definitionally, at least it seems to me. I think I'll agree there that would that be objective definitionally or not? Maybe I'm still not sure.
What would be?
I mean, mind independent, right? It's still
no, these guys are not these guys are missing the forest for the trees and talking about all this stuff. And
right. Shall we just take a few comments? Kelly, I think you just went through them, right? I'll just go through them, right? बहुत बातें करते इधर उधर बात नहीं होती आती, right? He's talking about going to other streams, right? I think maybe he's talking about me going to Wajidi, Mufti Wajidi's stream, and then they just kick me out for some reason. I mean, that happens. As a Muslim, I have a question for the Christians. How could the God Abraham, who punished the Hebrews for golden calf, could accept their idolatry for human beings, his creatures? Right? I think, yeah, you can ask that question. As a Muslim, I have another question for the Jews this time. How could their God make such a distinction between his creatures, calling non-Jews goyim, which literally means cattle? I think this something similar you can also find for Jews in the Quran and other scriptures. Maybe yeah, each newer scripture has something good to talk about the previous ones. Basically, good, and I don't mean good, by the way. I mean bad, basically, direct opposite, right? So it's a mix of things that you can find in these scriptures, and that's majorly true for, I think, Abrahamic religions, right? I mean, Christians will always have something against the Jews, and then the Muslims will also have something against the Christians, right? In the text, at least, textually or scripturally. Or you can posit this question, but I'm saying okay, but human, and I invite everyone out to read the Quran and find many scientific facts which were proved. So, what do you talk about scientific facts? More to France. I think what you need to do is you need to go back and watch our. Maybe have we done anything on scientific miracles of thing? I think we need to do it. I guess it's high time. A lot of people talk about us looking into it. Kelly, they make idols of knowledge, but Virgin Mary and the saints, and they pray them literally more than God Himself. Right? I think Kelly, you already responded to it. Debunked? How could you debunk this verse with? Alright, I'm not gonna read it. You guys read it, and then if there's something interesting, we'll talk about it. I think this is the scientific miracle debunked. Do you know the principle of explosion? You know, I think more to France. I think the link is open. If you want, and if you're still listening to us, maybe join in and ask these questions, and maybe have a decent conversation, cordial conversation. I think that's what I would suggest instead of just going through your comments and. Yeah. All right. I think we'll let them be. What do we do? Go back to the video.
If God exists, is this a mute point that morality is an issue?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Why not? If He is all-knowing and all-wise, are there any better standards that you can come up with, or I can come up with?
Wait, I might have misunderstood the question.
How far back do I have to go?
Well,
Wait, what did you misunderstand? Let me know.
I thought you were saying like, from our perspective, is this acceptable or not acceptable?
No, so let me repeat. All right, let me repeat so that it's very clear. Right, if God exists, right, the fact that we've agreed to the idea that if God exists, He's all-knowing, all-powerful, so all-knowing and all-wise, right? He will come up with the best moral standards for any society, any creation of His, right? The standard He provides with His attribute of all-knowing and all-wise would be the best standard that we can ever come up with, right? It will be better than what you can come up with.
Attribute on that to guarantee.
What attribute? What attribute?
Like the all good part.
Why do I have to add all good?
Because He could be evil and He could be all knowing, and He could just be doing bad things. Like the good part, make sure that He's doing the moral.
Again, when you say all good, you're already passing judgment on God that He is subjected to morality, right? So whatever He does is good, right? From our perspective, it's a very different thing. We understand God from the perspective from how the Quran actually teaches us, not from how not my.
This is just stupid. What are they talking about? This guy.
Yeah, I think he's contradicting himself. He's just now he's saying that. See, remember what he
straight away said. Yeah, he says you're already subjecting God to our standard of morality. But then he straight away says God is good.
No, no.
What
I
is he
think
talking?
the last sentence, Mac, whatever this guy's name is, Mac. He said God could be evil, and he said, no, 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 you don't get it. In our
Yeah,
paradigm,
he could be evil and all knowing, which is absolutely, yeah.
God could do anything, right? And that's what he means. This Mac guy said God could be evil, right?
No, no, no.
I
Rewind
don't
a
know what
bit,
it really
because
means. Hmm?
because he says God is already good.
No, we believe whatever God does is good. That's what he said.
Okay, rewind a
No,
bit.
there's no. Now the word good doesn't mean anything, right? That's what I'm talking about. Shall I just rewind 10 seconds and see what he
Yeah,
said?
go for it.
Yeah, yeah, rewind it.
All knowing, and he could just be doing bad things. Like, like the
Oh,
good
so
part makes sure that he's doing the moral. The
again, when you say all good, you're already passing judgment on God that He is subjected to morality, right? So whatever He does is good, right? From our perspective, it's
So whatever he
Okay.
does is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say that whatever he does is good, then you are already subjecting him to morality. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
use the
already
same
subjecting
word.
him to
Yeah,
morality,
you.
and at the
Yeah,
same time, he's agreeing to Mac when he said he could
exactly.
just be evil, right? And
Yeah,
evil, he's saying from his perspective.
right.
But when God is doing evil things, it's still good, by the way,
Yeah,
because God defines what is good. So from
yeah,
God's perspective, even if this Mac's perspective that is evil, which he can say,
yeah.
but you know,
So
so
when
he agreed
so
to
it's
very quickly. He
yeah.
agreed to what Mac said. I think.
Yeah, yeah. So Mac obviously would mean that, for example, God could be someone who wants people or humans to suffer eternally, right? He wants people to do that, or to go through that suffering,
And God
eternal
is good,
suffering.
though, by the way. Yeah.
And Faisal would say, even if he is such kind of a God, it would still be he. According to him, he would still apply the word God to him, because this is what God has done, and whatever God does is by definition good. So he has applied the label of good to whatever God does. So in other words, he's using good for, I mean, it's a gibberish word for
Good has
in
lost
fact,
meaning,
yeah,
basically.
it's nothing. He's
Yeah,
using
good
good
is
just
it
to
is.
deceive people.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it means nothing.
yeah. Good is just a
Yeah,
gibberish
this is
word,
what I've been
basically.
saying. I think this is what I've been saying for the past millions of streams, right? That the good becomes an empty term, gibberish. You may as well throw the word good out, because you're just saying blah blah blah, right?
Yeah,
Because it has no meaning independent to whatever you want to apply it to, right? God is good is like saying God is like himself.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, God is like himself. But unless you have a different understanding of it, like God, when you say something like God is good, is that you think God is. I don't know how to make sense of it. Unless you think God, when you say God is good, you mean it's a good
What do
thing
you
that.
mean? I think I
Yeah.
would say that's the
I mean,
question.
we
What do
should
you mean?
question their intention. We should
Yeah,
question them. Why are you using the word good? What is the purpose of you using this word? If it means just whatever God does, then you could just say God does what he does. But you have intentionally you intentionally use the word good. Why do you use it? I mean, it's quite obvious.
maybe
They
it
just
has no
want
meaning. I
to
think yeah, it has
it.
no
Yeah,
meaning.
they just want the layman, because it gives you a good impression, because this word is generally used. It has a certain meaning. So they just want to use the word so that it invokes that meaning in the in the mind of a person. But when you actually when you actually ask them, you say, no, no, it doesn't mean what you think it means. It means something else.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a very good catch. Simple minds would just fall for it and would say,
Exactly,
"Wow, how
exactly.
beautiful!
Yeah,
God
God is all
is
good.
good." They say,
Yeah,
"God
yeah,
is good," right? And wow, this is really good. I mean, awesome. That's a feeling, right? God can't do anything wrong. That's the impression they get in their head. They haven't thought through it properly, probably.
yeah.
Uh,
It's just like saying, for example, you ask someone about another person. You say, okay, what do you think about Mr. B? Do you think he's a good person? Should I hire him? Let's say you're looking some to hire someone, and you say, someone who knows Mr. A, who you want to who you're considering to hire, and you ask your contact person, and you say, okay, do you know Mr. A, and what do you think about him? Do you think it will be a good hire? He performs well, in this kind of role. And the person said, yeah, he performs, he's an excellent resource. He's a very good resource. And I was like, okay, great, then I'll hire him. And then when you hire him, he ends up to be a very terrible hire. You regret your decision to hire him. And then you go back to your friend or you contact and you ask him, well, you said he's an excellent person or excellent resource. You said, well, excellent. By the
What do
excellent,
you mean by
I didn't
excellent?
mean what you understood from excellent or the general meaning of excellent. I meant entirely something else. In fact, the entire opposite of that. So, I mean, what would you consider such a person, right?
Yeah,
Intentionally deceitful, even, right? So, I think that's
yeah,
what they're being.
totally. All right, Madin, you want to add something? Shall we move on? Has anybody joined? Why isn't anyone watching us? Okay, let's move on.
It's a very different thing.
Shall we finish the stream, guys, or shall we wait for another 10-15 minutes?
Up to you guys. What do you think?
Madin.
No, you just play it for another 5 minutes or so. Then
Yeah. Okay.
We understand God from the perspective from how the Quran actually teaches us, not from how not my whims, not SMK's idea, or not the end race, right? If the Quran says this is how he is, that's how he is, right? So he's not subjected to anything. He's self-sufficient. He's everything else is subject to him. The all good part, he's all good because he's the source of goodness, right? So if he,
one of the 99 names, all loving.
yes, it is, right?
So I'm not wrong in saying that he's all loving.
No, you said good.
Okay, we'll change it to loving.
Okay, so now you're changing to loving.
Sure, I think that's pretty close to the same thing, isn't it?
So it's not all loving, most loving. That's not how we understand that. Right? So if we would translate that into...
Loving, being good, not the same thing.
Go ahead, DeAndre, you're breaking up, Akhi. Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, being loving and being good, or being all loving or being morally perfect, those are not the same predicates. They're different predicates.
Yeah.
We don't ascribe all loving as a predicate of God. He's Al-Wadud, he's the most loving. He's not all loving, though. But he is good because everything that he does is good. Everything he does is perfect.
Yeah. So Mac, if he is how we've described him to be, is it a mute point that God...
By definition, right? So when they say that everything he does is perfection, or everything that he does is good, again, they are just declaring it or calling it good. They're labeling it good. They don't mean anything by that word, though. This should be very clear. They don't mean anything by that word, except that God does what he does. So I just wanted to emphasize that point.
Yeah, and how quickly they have to switch from one side to the other. This is called the, I don't know what it is called in English. There is an idiom for it in Hindi. But then,
sorry, I just wanted to point out, I think he just used the sentence, God is the source of all goodness, right?
Right.
Just imagine what does that mean in that context. If they define good by whatever God does, by definition is good, then what do you mean God is the source of all goodness?
At one point they were here, now they completely switched over to that side, saying, no, good is what we mean good, and God is goodness, that absolute goodness or whatever that means.
The only thing that it could mean, given the context of how they have defined good, the only thing that statement, God is the source of all goodness, the only thing it could mean is God is the source of everything of which he is the source of. Correct? He's the source of everything of whatever he is the source of.
Yeah, I think they said Al-Wadud, so most loving, right? Yeah. Okay. Madhun, you want to add something? I think maybe nothing to add there.
Let's go on.
The idea that...
Sorry, Kelly, you were saying something?
No, I said, let's go on, move on.
If God exists, essentially, is it a mute point about morality that we have to discuss morality now? Should we rather spend time in discussing whether or not God exists?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like the main point is you got to get to that first, right? You got to.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But at the same time, this is like one of the problems that I have is, and why I don't accept this, right? And belief, like, I don't think belief is a choice. I need to be convinced by something, right? And if I have problems, this is what's keeping me from being convinced.
I just
a problem
pause it
as in
for a
what is
second.
keeping you from being convinced?
I'm not sure what was the intention of Mac in the beginning with which he started this line of questioning. But what just Faisal said, I think I agree with him. But I think what that means also is that Faisal does not believe in the argument from morality, that he should not be, uh, you know, appealing to the existence of God
Yeah,
by
trying
virtue
to
of
convince
morality.
the other. Yeah,
Exactly. So he cannot, because it is one of the arguments. So if Faisal is saying this, then I think he should agree that the argument from morality is not a valid argument.
totally, totally. Martin, you want to add something, right?
Yeah, I think the main guy's problem was that God's morality is subjective, right? And that's his problem. So, and then if the Muslim is trying to say that shouldn't we just talk about what that God exists? Well, if his problem is that the case for God is such that there's a God and he's good and he has an objective morality, and he's finding it difficult to accept that simply because the case for God that's been made, that God is the source of and locus of morality, falls short because everything that they're saying sounds arbitrary. Then then he's right. I think that's his main thrust of why he's here in this conversation, because the case for God is arbitrary. Sorry, the case
Right.
for God being the moral arbiter of the universe, and he lays down morals, and it's good morality. It's a robustly objective morality or something. Real objective morality falls short, right? So I think that's the main purpose why he's here. And I've not seen anything in this conversation to for these guys, the Muslims, to even realize what, because it got lost in the crossfires here over little issues. The main problem is, um, if it is a objective morality, then it can't be arbitrary. It can't just be whatever God wills or whatever God is. Yeah, there has to be some sort of connection between what God is and what objective morality is, right? And that is the youth of problem. Is God good because it just whatever God is good, or is there something else about God that makes it good, really good? Um, is God's benevolence what makes God good, or is God's goodness makes any other quality that He has, be it capricious, malevolent, tyrannical, that'll be good as well. Which ontological foundation are we looking at? If it's the latter, which is that whatever God is, God's going to be good, then it's just arbitrary. And if it's arbitrary, then it's subjective, right? It's subjective because that's what we mean. I mean, unless we have some real proper understandings of the word objective and subjective, which is right for when the caller talked about, I think objective or something being objective means mind independently true. It can't. They didn't need to talk about that more deeply. They end up talking about other issues closely related, maybe with examples and analogies, but they never really discussed that part, right? They need to talk about what is objective versus what's subjective. Why is something objective, and why arbitrariness? What's wrong with arbitrariness being a objective standard? And the Muslim should try to explain why even if something is arbitrary, it still can be objective. And I'm not sure they articulated anything other than the fact that they mentioned the word necessary without any further elaboration, and they mentioned that there's no rule that he has to adhere to, and therefore it becomes objective. Is that what it is? So because there is no God for God to answer to, so therefore even if he just makes something up, whatever he is, arbitrarily, it becomes objective. But that's not what we mean by objective, because objective doesn't stop being subjective because there's no leader to answer to, right? So I don't think these guys understand this properly. The problem, not many theist philosophers have realized, and therefore they try to bake things into God's nature and deny the arbitrary horn as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's why probably, yeah, I think is divine simplicity a result of all these problems that some of these sites saw that they just can't solve, and then they resorted to, slowly shedding off, attribute after attribute due to these problems. Maybe one of those problems was that due to Euthyphros. Anyway, moving on.
It's the idea that
Well, the
God is
idea
not
that
moral.
morals are objective, but then they don't apply to God.
They don't apply to God. How will they apply to God? He's the lawgiver. He's the one who sets the standard. He's not subject to that standard. Right?
Like from my perspective, right? From my perspective.
Yeah. So then you've
Something
misunderstood who
objective,
God is.
it like applies to everything in that field.
Yeah, but Mac, this is the thing. You've misunderstood the Islamic God. You've misunderstood who God is, and you can basically create a straw man of God, of how we understand God, and you can basically create an argument against that. But that doesn't apply to us. This is why we're saying you need to understand from our paradigm.
You don't understand what the word objective means.
The what means?
The word objective.
Exactly.
The word
Can you pause this?
objective thing doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. Faisal is saying, well, you don't understand our concept of God. It's not about your concept of God. It's about you saying that there's objective morality and yet saying that no, it won't apply to God.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
think,
you're using these words and not understanding
yeah,
what they mean, basically.
yeah. So he correctly pointed out that you don't understand the word meaning of the word objective. Do you think? I just had a question. Do you think this conversation? I'm not sure it would have been any better than this. But do you think it would have been better for Mac to go instead of using the word objective, using the word absolute? Do you think it would have
I think,
been
yeah,
better?
absolute. I think absolute
Because
is, yeah, absolute is probably, I don't think anybody claims absolute morality, right? Any of these
I mean,
guys.
there are Muslims who claim it. They don't understand probably the meaning of the word
Yeah,
absolute,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
they would claim that there is absolute morality, and then they will go around saying, well, there can all they will go
Yeah, I
around
mean,
discussing the exception
if
of these
somebody says
morality.
absolute morality, then it's
Yeah,
crumbled in within, a couple of
yeah, yeah,
seconds, maybe, or minutes, maybe. So
exactly.
yeah, that's a
I
huge
mean, for
problem.
example, if I ask anyone, is lying morally good? Or absolutely sorry, it's more lying
I mean, you can take
absolutely
so many
uh,
examples:
yeah,
killing, lying.
yeah,
You're allowed to lie. Of course, you're allowed to kill.
mm,
So nothing remains as a moral
yeah,
basis, basically.
mm,
Absolute moral.
mm.
Uh,
I mean,
truth.
I have seen, if you recall, there are Muslim apologists who claim that absolute morality, they believe in absolute morality.
Right, right.
Yeah. I mean, they claim, but then the moment you start asking questions about it, they'll say, no,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
an exception to this, and then there's exception to that, and all of that. So then they'll realize that, then it's not absolute. I mean, they will not
yeah, yeah.
accept it, but this is what it will
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that it's not
I
absolute
think
anymore.
somehow I remember even Qaiser Ahmed Raja.
Exactly. He made
Yeah,
this.
he believes probably in absolute morality. Maybe something, or he's got
He
a very
said it.
very twisted
He's a very
understanding of.
twisted understanding, because someone
Yeah,
asked him this question, like, okay, that in a debate you mentioned that you believe in absolute morality, and then what do you think about this rule? Aren't there any exception to this rule? He said, or let's say not murdering or not killing someone. He said, well, there are always exceptions. Absolute doesn't mean that there are no exceptions. This is what he said. Absolute
yeah. I
doesn't mean
mean,
that there are no exceptions. I
baffles
mean,
me, and these
absolute
guys.
means, yet in this situation, this is absolute. Well, when you use the word absolute, it means it is independent of any situation, any time or space. It just
Exactly,
applies. It's just absolutely true. You cannot just
exactly.
say that there are exceptions under certain conditions,
No,
despite
it's
that rule being
absolutely
absolute.
true, and the very what do you call unsavory, unfavorable consequence for theists is that
Uh,
even God can't change it.
God
Even if
can't change it. Exactly. Which they
you know,
cannot accept. This is not something that they can or
they
should
won't
accept.
be able to accept it, right? Pretty
Yeah.
much, because
Because
that's an
God can change
absolute.
it.
God is helpless, pretty
Yeah.
much, in
Yeah,
changing
because
those.
if you this is how you define absolute, then how would you define relative?
Exactly.
If you create exceptions in absolute morality, then how would you define relative morality? Because
Right.
that is how you define relative morality, something that depends on conditions and situations and circumstances. It could
Right.
differ based on all of that. So
Right.
then this is how you define relative morality. If you define absolute morality in those terms, in the similar
Then
terms,
what
then
happens to relative?
how
Na?
would you
And it
yeah,
becomes relative, pretty much, in a
yeah, it
sense.
becomes relative. Yeah.
Madan, any takes on this? Shall we move on?
No, no. I don't think these. I think I wouldn't. Obviously, I wouldn't use any words like absolute or relative or anything. I think objective is fine because, well, that's just my. I think other than the semantical differences, unless you know, you're just trying to get at a different understanding, marketable understanding maybe, to market it as absolute or versus objective. But these things mean different things to me, right? The meaning behind the term, they
Is
signify
important.
different.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
But
And
I mean, I'll tell
anybody,
you why I
anybody
said,
using, yeah,
you know,
anybody
I
using those, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, for example, I mean, I've often heard Muslims say, or question people that, okay, if you believe in subjective morality, could it possibly be true that, let's say, um, killing an innocent person could be morally good, right? Now, the problem is that when they ask this question, what they have in their mind is that it can never possibly be considered morally good, which means they are sort of believing, and now it's an implied understanding, but it seems that they believe that this can never be actually true, that killing an innocent person could ever be morally considered good, right? When they're asking this question, but which means that they believe in
Totally,
absolute
totally.
morality,
Yeah, yeah.
at least. Yeah. So but in that case, I mean, when you'll ask this question to them, okay, can God declare killing an innocent person good? Well, I mean, they can have two responses. Well, well, yeah, he can. In fact, he has, according to Quran. And if they could answer it that way, or they could say, well, no, he cannot do that because he's absolute good, or it won't align with his nature and all of that. So they can say that, but in that case, again, the question would come about, what makes his nature that way? Why? What limits his nature to be this way and not does not allow him to make that decision? So yeah, I mean, it seems that they sometimes don't realize that they are appealing to absolute morality while actually not believing in it.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
When they're asking this question to non-believers, the kind of question they're asking, it seems that they believe in absolute morality while actually they don't.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's probably they even understand that, just don't probably want to, go there, right? When it's required of them to present it this way, then they'll say, no, no, no,
Yeah,
absolutely, whatever, do that. We can't
yeah,
do that. We are not allowed to do that because, we have the absolute morality. It's unchanging for all times. But as soon as it, well, yeah, 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 that happened, that those innocents were killed because they were among them, right? So yeah, that's the thing.
I, I mean, I lazy just had a discussion recently with Aasim. I'm not sure if you've listened to that.
No,
And he
I
was
haven't.
discussing, and he asked, and I think he had a very good discussion with Aasim about, sort of about the problem of evil. And he asked Aasim, okay, is there actually true evil? Does true evil exist? Or there are things which evil, or evil things or acts, do they exist? And initially Asim said, yeah, I mean, they do exist. First he said, for example, what, like killing someone or something? He said, well, whatever you consider to be like actual evil, does actual evil exist? And initially he said, well, yeah, actual evil exists. And but then he said, okay, well, does God, I mean, if anything, what you consider evil, can would you consider it evil even if God does it? And he went, no, no, no. It's we don't believe in absolute evil. We believe in relative evil. Well, okay. Okay, that okay. So then you believe in relative evil, but
Right.
then do you think morality is objective? Do you think then the morality is also? I mean, then do you also then not believe in objective morality because you said that it's just relative
Right.
evil. It's not actual evil. So then that means there is nothing truly evil, which means it's just something it's just subjectively evil. Like okay, it's not truly evil. Whatever you even consider evil, it's not truly evil. No, no, no. Morality is objective. But it's not there is no there's only relative evil, because he could not accept that anything in this world is actually truly evil, because anything and everything that happens in this world is something that God has caused it to be that way, right? Or at least have allowed it to be that way. But God cannot
Yeah,
allow actual evil or true evil. So
true, right? That'll
yeah,
that'll put God in very uncomfortable situation.
yeah. So
Right,
yeah, I mean,
right.
I think I seem tend to agree that if there can be no absolute evil or no true evil, then there should not be any truly evil act as well, or
Yeah,
objectively
exactly.
evil
Yeah,
act as
and
well. Why
any,
should it be objectively evil if
yeah,
there's no true
objectively
evil
evil,
in
right?
the first place?
True.
Well, then am I wrong? Do you think it's something wrong with with that reasoning?
Um, if there's no
True
act-
evil,
there's no true evil,
no
what do you
actual
mean
true evil.
evil?
Nothing is truly evil, for example, because everything, according to the theistic, or at least
Mm,
from what Asim was trying to imply, anything that happens in this world is actually not actually in its actuality is not evil, because
I
behind everything there is God's wisdom. So it and God's wisdom cannot be bad. So whatever happens in this
mm,
world, behind it there is a good intention of God. So
mm.
whatever happens, this means that it's not truly evil. It's just
Yeah.
actually it just seems to be evil, but it's not truly evil.
wouldn't
So then
shirk
whoever is
wouldn't
committing
shirk
that act
fall into
is
that
also not committing
category.
true evil.
Wouldn't shirk
Yeah.
fall into that category?
Now that's a good question.
True
Hmm.
evil.
I
That
think
is true evil because the
all of
Yeah,
these ways.
consequences are so dire. I think it
yeah.
has to be the true evil. I think. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm just that needs a thought.
I don't think these. Yeah, these conversations are extremely weird for me, because they don't make a lot of sense, in a very bad way. So it's just
Yeah.
strange saying it doesn't fit what Islamic theology espouses. I'm not even sure. It's like they're just trying to come out with anything that
Anything. No, but I
people,
think it's at least this seems
yeah.
to be in line with at least the philosophically educated people, that they don't believe, even Hamza Tzortzis and all of Hijab, you have mentioned this in debates, that there is no true evil. Some everything which seems evil, it's actually not truly evil in this world, right? There's a good intention behind it. God, there is some wisdom behind it.
Hmm.
They have said it. So there seems to be a
Yeah, but
common view.
I don't really count them as intellectually. I don't think too many theists think like that at all. They do think that things are evil.
So the other side, then the other option is to consider that yes, true evil exists and God allows it,
Yeah.
which I think it's a problematic view. Again, both of them are problematic, but I think I think it's more problematic to believe that God would allow things which are truly evil. Truly evil would mean that something that is only only evil. There's no goodness in it,
Mm-hmm.
or at least more evil, or more negativity than positivity, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it
No,
depends what you
I
mean
don't
by
think it can't have more. It can't have even a shred of a positivity. A pure evil will be complete
But I mean,
evil.
you could say that if something is more evil, I mean, let's say there's something in action which causes more harm than good, than benefit, then you could say, well, yeah, that this is causing you harm, then why were you doing it? You could say that I was doing this for this because it causes some sort of good. But if you know that this harm is more than the goodness or the benefit that it is giving you, then I think you would say that, well, don't do it. It's generally, you would consider that evil. But if you say that no, it is more good than it is bad, then you could say, well, I'm doing this because this is better than, it is causing some sort of harm, but it's not just harm, it's also goodness. And goodness actually overcomes, or somehow is more than the harm or bad, or evilness that it causes. So I think you could say that even such an act could be considered good. But if there's an act which is more evil than goodness or than good, then I think you
Yeah,
would
I think
consider that.
I think this kind of there is no such thing as evil view. It doesn't really fit with any most thoughtful philosophers. They do think there is evil involved in any system.
You mean atheistic
They would
or
think
non?
they would think Satan is evil, for example, and there is evil, and he has done evil, right? The idea that overall, the usefulness of Satan is to create goodness or something like that. I don't think that is a view that's popularly subscribed to.
No, you see, I mean, even if in the overall scheme, I think if you ask a Muslim, okay, then why did God create Satan? God knew that Satan would do this, and he would cause all of this harm. Then why did God create Satan? Now they would say, well, yes, because Allah wanted to test people, and then ultimately that they would think that test is good. So they would argue that yes, there was wisdom behind it, and therefore it was not a truly.
Yeah, what I'm saying, the utilitarian view isn't popularly subscribed to. You know that people. So certain theologians may say, for example, some philosophers may say, for example, it may lead to a net positive or something like that. But I don't think they deny that there was evil that exists, right? They think so. In other words, what I mean is most theologians do think that the world can go awry and go to evil, for example, and you will be punished for it, right? There are parts of the world now.
Yeah.
They would defend the utilitarian view. They will defend for example, God's actions like earthquakes, like tornadoes. Like that wasn't really evil. They may what you're calling relative evil, and they may use different terminology to explain it. But they may say that it seems like it's evil, but when you look at the totality of the picture, you'll see that the earthquake was for a good end, and that's where they subscribe to the utilitarian view and so on. But but the same theologians could also think that, for example, when a man goes and then rapes a child, or Satan did this or that, that was just a
Pure evil.
Yeah, that was truly evil, and you'll get punished for it. Can you see what I'm saying? So this is why I don't think this is it's not as a popular view that every single thing is good in the end. And there's no evil. They think there is evil, and how does God account for that is through punishing. And the utilitarian view that you're talking about, that
the net goodness.
Yeah. So the man rapes the girl, and then he gets punished, and that evens things out.
I think there is a better phraseology that we'll have to use. Forces upon.
Okay, let me just finish the thought, though. Let me finish the thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So man forces upon himself on the girl, and then goes to hell and then burns. They don't say that suffering makes it good. They say that suffering is just a punishment. So overall, there might be some justice, right? But the infliction of the harm to the girl was still an evil, and there was a real evil in the world. Can you see what I'm saying? So this is a difference from what Hamza and Hijab believes, if that's what they believe, where even the girl getting getting forced upon was just a good thing. Most sophisticated theologians and philosophers don't think that. They think there is evil in the world, and like in Christianity, I think Christians believe that evil exists. Some might not. I'm not saying every single one. There's various different people think different things, but some Christians think that a lot of the suffering that we undergo, a lot of the crimes that happen to us happen for a good end, and they may agree with the idea that overall it's good, but they also believe that some things are not overall good.
I mean, then the question would arise: well, why would a good God allow true evil to exist?
Yeah, sure. You can pose that question. Yeah, I agree. But I'm just talking about what they believe. What they believe. They may end up in intellectual problems. I agree with that. But I'm saying I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it's a generally popular view that there is no evil in the world. There's some people who do say that, I agree, but I think most people believe like that if a criminal goes and commits a crime or a sin, a major sin,
he will be punished for it. All of these future incidents of punishment isn't going to make that evil that he did any less evil. It's not that we're short-sighted to see the full picture. That was in and of itself an evil, and that evil will be evil. It won't be reversed, won't be erased. It won't be overcome by goodness. Yeah. A lot of theologians think that. Some theologians do think it's part and parcel or mixture of these things. Some of the things that we do does lead to a good end, right? But not everything. Not everything. Some things are evil, and they're going to be. That's why they're going to be punished for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think that should bring us to the close of our stream. And I think this was a good stream. By the way, I think we maybe made a mistake in making a good thumbnail, and that's why we didn't have enough, viewers, audience. But as and when I get a chance, I'll update the thumbnail. But other than that, I think we've had so many conversations on these problems, right? True, evil. What is evil? Is God moral? Is God amoral or immoral? Even
Let me just say something else. Like people when they talk about like the logical problem of evil, a lot of people don't think, for example, that God is a being that a lot of like people like Plantinga, people like a lot of theists. I forget the names now. A lot of theists, for example, when J.L. Mackie, who made the philosophical argument for the logical problem of evil, he thought it was just obvious that God would not allow any evil, not commit any evil, not allow any evil if he's able to stop it, and then it's just logically contradictory to think that there's going to be a world and there's going to be evil in it, right?
J.L. Mackie, even J.L. Schellenberg. I think he believes the same.
So what theists thought that the linking premise that God would, an omnipotent, omnibenevolent God would stop all forms of evil, they thought that premise that. So in order to make the logical argument, J.L. Mackie started with God is omnipotent, God is good, benevolent, whatever you want to call it, and then the next premise was something like, if there's a God who's like this, then he will stop all that. They denied that premise. They just didn't think that was the case. The linking premise and the denial of the linking premises was that God will go and stop all forms of evil, right? He won't allow it. He won't enable it. He won't create it. He won't stop it. That was wrong.
It doesn't start from there. Yeah, totally.
And Alvin Plantinga came out with the idea of the free will. That without free will you can't have good. So God has to allow.
Evil, right.
Being able to inflict, forcing themselves upon the girl, right? So that they can be good. But I don't think he made the argument that overall it's going to be good in the end or something like that. He just said that he has to tolerate some degree of evil, and that's why there's evil. He didn't deny there was evil. He said God has to tolerate that there has to be some degree of evil in order to allow for the good. In order to have a world with free agents in it, with actual free will, to be they have to be empowered
to exercise their ability to.
Yeah. And at no point in that paper or in papers forthcoming did Plantinga tried to show that even when you engage with the free will to commit the evil, it's not really evil because of this or that or that. No, he said that it's just the best world he can create. Not the best. Sorry, not the best world. It's just the world that God has to create if he wants to allow free agents.
I think.
Yeah.
God is restricted by this. Okay, anyways. So I think we are at a closing time. Before we close just like every time, I'm gonna remind everybody to like, subscribe, and share as much as you can. Just press that thumbnail with the bell notification so that you get a notification whenever there is a next stream. I think we try to do a stream every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, most likely. We also have an English channel, English only channel. We haven't used that at the youtube.com/unwillingfaith. You can see it in the bar, what is called its banner bar. And then if you want to support us, you can support us at patreon.com/Philo Sapience or buymeacoffee.com/Philo Sapience. Or you can support us if you're able to. You can support us via super chats, super stickers, via memberships, and whatnot. YouTube has so many different ways of doing that. And the best thing to support us is go to other channels where these philosophical discussions happen, and you can just go and plug in our channel by way of, hey, have you guys listened to these guys? These are good. They have debunked all your arguments and made your case null and void. And yes, that's something that you can do. That's the best thing to do. Comment as much as you can, and then once the stream is over, yes, comment underneath the video clip. Right, engage in a conversation, maybe ask us a question, or wait for the next time. All right, thank you everyone. Bye for now.